Piers just laughed because Piers
do me
just
a
laughed
favor.
because he recognizes this crazy spin right now.
Harry,
oh my God. Even Sean is laughing. Sean is like, what is going on?
Harry, you're a walking meme.
Come on, man. Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep
So
going.
everybody that's at home, go on any social media, put Harry Sisson.
Yeah.
You're a joke. You're a walking hypocrite.
Okay, well, look,
You're fake as hell.
Trump has no idea what he's doing. He actually thought he was going to get some kind of deal from Putin. Of course he didn't.
There's one thing for people to speculate. There's another thing for them to lie. And in this case, these were lies.
Are we just all losing our minds here? Maybe look at any 79-year-old man's hands.
The idea that he was missing in action or unseen is just patently false. He sat down for an hour with Reagan Reese of the Daily Caller. There were photos of that interaction.
The States, we've lost James Carville. Obviously, wasn't going to hang around.
Piers, he's probably crying. He's probably crying because he's okay. He's probably pissed off that the president's okay.
Well, it's fake news. You know, it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong?
I don't know if this dude knows who I am. Talking about me covering up for Biden.
Please,
my God.
Please, just hurry up.
Jeez Louise. Anyway,
just hurry up,
anyway.
Please, Harry.
I'm happy to just stop screaming your face off. Relax. It's okay. You're a grown adult. With
You have
his
no
38%
leader,
approval rating, for sure. You guys will be just good.
Harry, you
You'll
are
be
a
just
joke.
good. 38%
Harry,
approval rating.
you are a meme.
38%
Harry,
approval
you're a
rating.
meme.
38% approval rating. You guys are just great. You're just great. You and your 38% approval rating.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we got some fireworks on this one. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's always fireworks when Vinny comes in. Vinny from PBD, in case you didn't know who that was. We got Harry Sisson coming in, and James Carville, and Sean Spicer. So it's gonna be pretty good. It's kind of entertaining, but I'm gonna try to fill in the gaps on a little bit of substance, because they do make some claims that quite unverified, to say the least, but we'll get into all that. So y'all do me a favor, smash that like button for me, subscribe if you're new around here, that'd be great. I'd love to have you on board. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can, and if you would be so inclined, you know, mull it over, think about clicking that join button if you don't mind. That would be great as well. That's the best way to help this channel expand and grow. So y'all do all that for me. And let's just go ahead and get into it.
You await the president. Let's ask the panel what they've made of all this speculation. We'll start with you, Sean Spicer. Welcome back to Uncensored. A lot of feverish gossiping going on about the health or otherwise of President Trump. What do you make of it? There's no doubt he's been unusually quiet the last few days and unusually, by his standards, not very visible. That has merely fueled speculation. What do you make of it all?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Look, there's a couple things that are facts in this situation. Number one, it was a holiday weekend in America, so a lot of people had downtime this weekend. He played golf, I think, every single day. The White House pool accompanies him to those situations. There was pictures of him playing. There was a picture of his granddaughter Kai with him. So we physically saw him. He did an extended interview, an hour plus, with the Daily Caller Reagan Reese. It's out. You can see that. They posted it. They pushed pictures out of it. He was very active on Truth Social. So, I mean, look, after 4 years of being gaslit about issues with respect to President Biden, you don't see the guy during a holiday weekend here in the U.S., despite him being active on social media and on the golf course. And the media goes and creates speculation about his health. It was wrong. It's ridiculous. And I frankly find it shameful that outlets like CNN decided to actually consider it news. It just shows you that, I mean, these are the same people who covered up Joe Biden's mental and physical acuity and now run rampant with speculation with no basis of it. A fact.
Okay, James Carville, your response to that?
Well, let me give you a fact maybe you don't know. On January the 17th in the year 2017, Donald Trump sent Keith Schiller and two goons into his internist office and confiscated his medical records. The internist, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bornstein, said he felt like he had been raped. Where are those medical records? Produce them. Why did you have them stolen? Why did you do that? Answer the question. Joe Biden, he did this. It's something with Joe Biden. Joe Biden, noun or verb, but Joe Biden. That's all you could. Where are the medical records?
I mean, there's no doubt if that was 2017. Then Yeah, but he's done pretty well to look as fit and energetic as he has been for the next 8 years, James, hasn't he?
There's an underlying condition that's being treated. Why would you seize your own medical records? But
in his last presidential annual physical report in April, if you compare the medication list to his old reports, there were 3 new medications noted. Rosuvastatin, which is used for stroke prevention, ezetimibe, which treats high blood cholesterol, and a daily aspirin. There's nothing there that suggests a massive underlying problem.
You may believe that. Why, have you ever asked to see the medical records that were confiscated? In your whole time in journalism, you were there. Did you ever say, sir, could we see the records that you ordered confiscated from your own internist? No, you haven't.
So you think?
So, well, I believe anything that the White House tells me. Oh God, he's taking some high blood pressure medication.
Wait, hey, James. With all due respect, it's not the White House. Those are military officers, and you have served. So you're well aware that you're questioning the integrity of a naval officer, and whether or not they'd lie on it. So please don't go there.
Wait, I'm sorry. Didn't you guys do that with Biden's medical reports?
Go there again, Mr. Spicer, in case you can't hear. Where are the medical records that were confiscated, and what underlying condition did they reveal? And you can put something in a medical report and leave something out. And by the way, I do know this: a naval officer is in the chain of command. I hate to inform you that, but they are subject to
I'm well aware, James, of the chain of command work.
Okay, well, Sean Spicer. I mean, Sean, when you were Trump's press chief in the first term, did you have anything that come across your desk that suggested there were concerns about his health, or anything perhaps being kept quiet?
Not at all. And I was in regular contact with Dr. Jackson at the time. But I'll tell you, I mean, this is the first time, and I've heard everything that you can possibly hear about Donald Trump. I've never heard this anecdote before about.
Nor have I. No.
January. So I mean, look, it's interesting. I mean, look, but the bottom line is, for the last several years, he's been seen by military government doctors who have given him a clean bill of health and put out his health records. So if there's an underlying condition, I'm not sure how you'd cover up for 8 years.
All right, folks, so I must address the double standard here. If we are going to accuse the Biden administration of covering up Joe Biden's mental decline, for crying out loud, right, with it constantly saying, oh, well, he shows a clean bill of health. Oh, he went to all these doctors and blah, 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 blah. We cannot do the same and just go and trust the White House and say, oh, Donald Trump is just completely fine, right? We can all look and see. I mean, this is how we knew Joe Biden was failing. He was shaking hands with ghosts, didn't know how to exit a stage, for crying out loud. He was mumbling and fumbling his way through his entire presidency. This is why we all say the deep state was in charge for the most part, because everything coming out of the Biden administration was utter incompetence, right? But we must be at least a little bit logically consistent on this and say, okay, well, we can look at Donald Trump and see that everything looks fine. Of course, we've got all these people looking at his freaking ankles and looking at his hands and the bruising. The dude's 80 years old, for crying out loud. Like, of course he's going to show signs of age. His mental faculties appear to be just as good as they were 20 freaking years ago, right? The same amount of slip-ups, the same amount of goof-ups and whatnot, right? They're not many. They're there, though. Right? I love how people point those out. Oh, well, Donald Trump mixed up Nancy Pelosi with Nancy Mace. It's like, okay, have you never done that, my dude? Like, seriously, we've all done that. But it's fascinating. Now, I want to address James Carville right quick. Oh, what a wackaloon. Like, seriously, that dude's a freaking lunatic. Like, who cares at this point if they confiscated some medical records? Okay, my dude, like, you're trying to make this a scandal for some reason, and nobody cares about this at all. Like, I really don't care that somebody came in and confiscated Donald Trump's medical records in 2017. Yeah, 2017. But he seems to want to make a big deal out of this. I really don't care about this, but I would tell everybody, look, let's be, like, consistent here. Let's not have any double standards or anything like that. Let's let the left do those things, and let's be logically consistent on this. right? If there's any concerns with Donald Trump's health, we must address these. Are they concerns that should take him out of the White House? You know, at this point, I don't see any. But once again, they could be hiding something. We just don't have any evidence that they're hiding anything. Some swollen ankles and some bruising on your hands is not nearly enough to call for the apocalypse, for crying out loud, to say that we must invoke the 25th Amendment and have him removed. That's ridiculous, y'all. Let's wait and see what happens. Let's see if he shows any sort of signs that he's not mentally capable of doing this job, which so far he's doing way better than any time at any point the Biden administration, because Biden was clearly unable to do the job before he even went into office. We were pointing out the mental failings of Joe Biden back in 2019. So once again, I would tell everybody that, look, let's just be logically consistent here. He hasn't shown any signs, but we're not just going to take the White House's word for it. If we start seeing signs ourselves that there's a problem, yeah, we're gonna address these criticisms and say, hey, look, let's see the medical records. But, you know, until then, let's keep going.
We're talking now. We're half an hour past the time, 30 minutes past the time that this press conference was supposed to start, which in itself is a bit weird. But, you know, this may all be absolutely nothing, James Carville. But why it's serious, I think, is that as this is all unfurling, all this gossiping about Trump's health and so on, you've got Putin with Xi and Modi all getting together. There's a new kind of world order that's happening right in front of our eyes. So actually, the health of the President of the United States is pretty vital right now. What do you make of what is happening with those three?
What's happening is at the turn of this century, it was believed incorrectly that the United States was the most dominant nation vis-a-vis the rest of the world since ancient Rome. Well, that's not the case anymore. Trump has no idea what he's doing. He actually thought he was going to get some kind of deal from Putin. Of course he didn't. Of course we have China, 1.4 billion people, India, 1.4 billion people, and Putin doing photo ops. What a catastrophe. And all these motor mouths do is die to left, and the left, and this and that. I don't know if this dude knows who I am, talking about me covering up for Biden.
You're the guy that has Trump derangement syndrome. The country's not doing great, James?
Jesus.
James, is the country in shambles? Does the country respect... Are we on the world stage respected finally? You don't know. I don't need to know who you are. You look. Listen. By the way, that's
this
why
guy
the
with the red
Democratic
tomato
Party
face has like an
is
IQ
in
of 5.
James,
You have no political
because
perspective.
of people like
you
the
really
Democratic Party,
no political beliefs.
The Democratic Piers, I have to say this. Why is the Democratic Party at a 35-year low of approval? It's because of people like you and Harry. Okay,
you know
your
you don't have to
party
scream,
sucks.
right? We
you
can
guys
hear
stand
you.
on nothing.
Oh my God.
The party sucks.
Wait. Just to be clear. Just to be clear throughout.
The party's in
yeah.
shambles.
Okay, go ahead. Get it out. Get the anger out. I got it. I understand you're very heated right now. Just to be clear, throughout this like 20. Are you still going?
Why is the party?
Okay, go ahead.
Why is your
Everybody
party
let him
at
have his
all-time
temper
low?
tantrum.
Why is your
Let him have his
approval
temper
rating
tantrum.
low?
I mean, look, there is a
Explain that to me.
There is a valid question there. The Democrats
I
have
agree.
never historically been this unpopular. Yeah, you can, James.
When's the last time a Democrat's lost an election since Trump been president? May I answer it? Did you watch? The Democrats are overperforming by over 15 points. We're on for a bet in Virginia. I'm spotting you 5 points. You're going to lose, Piers. You're going to lose bad.
I've
All
already
of these
ordered
motor
my
mouths-
steak
Okay.
when
Let
you
me
lose,
finish.
James.
Okay. All these motor mouths, you're getting ready to get stomped.
Okay.
You're going to get stomped in Virginia. You're going to get stomped in New Jersey, and you're going to get stomped.
Yeah, but James, just hang on. On that
The
point,
bet's on,
hang on, guys. James,
The bet's on.
But James, there is no doubt that the polling shows the Democrat Party has never been so unpopular. That is a fact.
What do you look at? Polls or election returns? So we have deemed ourselves that election returns no longer matter in the United States. We're just going to talk about polls. Look at every election. Look at what's getting ready to happen. Harry, you take it from here. You can handle these people.
No, James, if there's anybody here that can really dispose of these freaks, it's you. But I appreciate the honor. I just had to say that.
Am I one of the freaks?
Freaks?
Am I one of the freaks?
Oh, no. No, Piers, you're not one of the freaks. I like you, Piers. I like you. We have good conversations. This guy over here who looks like a tomato actually looks like he's about to explode right now. I mean, this guy is on fire. He's raging. Throughout the 20-minute, look at him. He's going to do it again. He's going to do it again. Look, throughout the entire 20-minute conversation we've had so far on your show, Piers, he has not outlined a single political belief. He has not outlined a single political belief.
That's Harry Sisson.
Go ahead.
Harry, you're the guy that was coercing 11 girls to send you nudes on Snapchat. Wasn't that you? Wasn't that you allegedly in the news?
No.
Was that you in the news?
It wasn't. No.
You're
it wasn't
champion
me,
for women.
It wasn't me,
You're the champion for women. You're a scumbag. You're a scumbag, Harry.
Do you want to keep raging right now? Look at you.
You're a scumbag.
Your face has turned color since you've got onto this show, by the way. Your face has changed colors.
Yeah, I just got back from vacation, too.
No, you're screaming. There's like veins popping out of your face.
And do me a favor.
Oh my God.
Hey, Harry and James, who's going to be your front runner for 2028? Who's your front runner? Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg? Who's going to run? Kamala? You both said Kamala was going to win. You both said Kamala was going to win.
Get things back on a more even keel? Let me bring in Sean again. Sean, I mean, James Carville's very...
See, to me, that was a pretty good clip right there, because the dichotomy between the Democratic Party and China, India, and Russia and what they're doing right now, it's kind of ironic, if I must say so myself. The Democratic Party, I love watching Democrats flounder around and try to say, oh, we're winning elections. That's exactly what we're doing. James Carville, really, you're winning elections, right? He's sitting here trying to make bets. Oh, yeah, we're going to win this election. Democrats are going to win in a blue state, a heavily leaning blue state. We're going to win for sure. Yes, of course, James. You're going to win in a blue state. Democrats, yes, go Democrats. But where's your leadership right now? What do you guys have? Once again, the Democrats are lost in the desert, have no leader. Moses is gone, for crying out loud. Moses is nowhere to be found. And the Democrats are just running in circles with no message, no leader, nothing to show for all the work, all the money that they've dumped into politics, all of the study sessions, the struggle sessions, and everything that they've done to try to figure out why they're losing Gen Z, why they're not winning over Americans, why they're doing this, and how can we get back the Latino vote, and how can we get back the black vote, and all these other votes. Why are we losing? We just don't understand. Our message of more housing is there, and reparations. Like, what, do you guys not want reparations? It's fascinating to watch. It's really fascinating to watch. And that's kind of what I see with China, India, and Russia. They're trying to put up this brave front, whilst at the same time rushing to make trade negotiations with the United States and trying to get out from underneath what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is reasserting American dominance. And, once again, that's not something that's just going to immediately show up. Right? It's not going to immediately show up. It takes time for these things to propagate, I guess you could say, throughout the world, or all the way around the world. Right? So these things are going to take time. We've still got the best standing army of any country, bar none, like by a long ways. So we're not really worried about this. Once we get the energy production going, we get oil going and all this other stuff, like OPEC, they're starting to ramp up production. So what does that mean? Yeah, that's a good sign, if you will, because that means competition, folks. But anyway, getting back to all of this nonsense, like, that was a fascinating clip, if I must say so. I just love how Democrats they don't have anything right now. Sure, is a Democrat guaranteed to win in a plus 28 Democrat jurisdiction? Yes, of course, James. Make that bet all day long. But who do you guys have for 2028? Nobody. There's no front runner right now. None whatsoever. And is there any signs that you guys are going to have anybody with any sort of message? That's the problem. They're sitting there spending millions upon millions upon millions of dollars trying to figure out what went wrong. It's the messaging. It's your entire party's position with everything. And once again, when we bring up these issues and try to tell Democrats what you are doing and why you are going to lose more elections, They say, well, that's not even an issue. What are you talking about? You're making that stuff up. That's fake news. Go ahead, keep ignoring us. We're trying to help you, but, it is what it is, and I still find it very fascinating. But let's keep going.
It cannot stay. Yeah. It cannot stay, Piers.
I promise one thing.
Look, there's nothing. There's nothing to even respond to when he speaks. All he does is just scream, and he just provided a list of Democratic priorities, which are a complete straw man. I actually don't know this guy's name, but you have absolutely no nuance in how you evaluate politics. You're not here for an educated conversation.
So tell me what your party stands for.
Hold on. Just be quiet for a second.
What's your party stand for?
I'm happy to answer if you just stop screaming for 5 seconds. We can all hear you. I promise. We can definitely hear you. At least Sean, who I have plenty of disagreements with, I'm doing it right now. At least Sean, who I have plenty of disagreements with, has come on here and been very respectful. He's, articulated his position. We have disagreements. That's perfectly fine. You're on here just screaming your face off. Now, let me tell you what the Democratic Party stands for. Build more housing, abundance. We want more houses to have more people in, and studies show time after time that if you build more housing, rent comes down. Right? That's number one. Number two, economic prosperity, opening up more job opportunities, investing in America like Joe Biden did with the CHIPS and Science Act, which, by the way, Donald Trump is going out there and bragging about. But in reality, it's the money that came from Joe Biden's bill that did that. Investing here, investing in technology of the future. And that includes, I know this is big and scary for you, but renewable energy. That's one of the fastest growing sectors in America. It's providing well-paying jobs. China's currently beating us at it, and Donald Trump made it worse by defunding these things. Let's invest in America. Let's build more housing. And let's also just care for people. Let's stop kidnapping people off the street in masks, throwing them into vans. Let's get back to constitutional due process, which, 10, 20 years ago, you might think the Republican Party stands for. But today, you're going to come on here after I finish, and you're going to scream, Donald Trump's not doing that. Donald Trump's not doing that. After judge after judge after judge appointed by Reagan, Bush, Trump have said Donald Trump has violated X, Y, and Z's due process. So we, the Democratic Party, actually do stand for the Constitution. We stand for affordability. We want to make the economy more fair for people. You just come on here and scream your face off about culture war issues that don't exist. Neither James Carville nor I will say we think 10-year-olds should be having their genitalia cut off, but you live in a bubble where you think that actually is the reality. You cannot have an informed political discussion with someone like me or James Carville, and you can't take the example that Sean Spicer has set for you today and be an adult. Be an adult. That's all I ask.
Hey, listen, Harry, if anybody's talking about examples, so are you going to sit there and tell me your Democratic messages build more houses? You were the one, for 4 years saying everything was good under Biden, inflation, the board. So Harry, as a Democrat, would you reverse order and open it up and bring all the illegals in? Is that what you would do? Because that's what your party did. That's what Alejandro Mayorkas said. Hold on. And you never said, hey, excuse me, I let you talk. Now this is why I scream, because you want to talk over me. So shut your ass up, all right? You guys left the border open.
A grown man, by the way. Look, Sean's even laughing at you. You're a grown man behaving like this. It's remarkable.
Fentanyl. How many people were killed? No, because see, you have no argument because you got to talk shit. Let me finish. How many Americans died of fentanyl?
Fentanyl deaths went down under Joe Biden.
Okay, let me bring in
fentanyl deaths went down under Joe Biden.
How many illegals were?
Let me bring in Sean Spicer.
Please bring in Sean Spicer.
You're a joke.
Please bring in Sean Spicer.
Harry Sisson is one of these people that they just take the corporate press narrative and they take the corporate press manipulation and just feed that out into the ether, saying, fentanyl deaths went down under Joe Biden. Yeah, they went down in the last section, right? Looking at the statistics here, what was it? They went down 24%. To around 87,000 compared to the 114,000 the previous year. Yeah, they spiked under Joe Biden. They shot way up under Joe Biden. I wonder why that is. Maybe because we have an open border. Yeah, they spike under Joe Biden. They shoot way off the freaking charts. And then he's trying to say, oh, it's a good thing. Hey, fentanyl deaths came down under Joe Biden. Yeah, they came down a little bit. To 87,000? Really? From 114,000? Oh, that's down 24% for crying out loud. See, this is the manipulation. Yeah, but you're not telling us what fentanyl deaths were. Oh, I don't know, say 2019. I don't know. They somewhere around, I don't know, 56,000. Yeah. That's not telling the whole story, my dude. These are the lies and the manipulation of the corporate press. It's people like Harry Sisson that have a large platform that go out there and say, "Oh, Joe Biden's good. He's good for the country. He was doing good on the economy and all this and that," just cheerleading for Joe Biden on a consistent basis and not actually saying anything. And it's all manipulated data. They get the corporate press narrative and they do not fact check the corporate press because that's an authority figure, and their appeal to authority stats, I guess you could say, are off the charts. They just do not question anything that comes from the corporate press or the CDC or, hey, if somebody, my doctor says, I should go do this, I'm going to go do this. I'm not going to go and get a second opinion from somebody that's not in the mainstream. Yeah, we like to do our own research around here because generally we find inconsistencies. We try to figure out where those inconsistencies come from. But I want to go back to the beginning of that clip. Where, once again, like I've been talking about this in case you guys don't follow this channel normally. I put out my regular news videos. We've been talking about crime and all this other stuff. And it's fascinating because the solution that Democrats always come up with to solve everything seems to be low-income housing. Oh, low-income housing will fix everything. Well, let me ask you something, Henry Sisson. This is how you're going to fix the economy, right? It's been proven. Study after study shows that you build more houses and rent comes down. Well, that might be the case, but Harry, my dude, who is going to occupy those houses? Like, we're currently sitting inside of a replacement crisis. People having babies has collapsed. And I wonder why that is. I don't know, maybe Democrat policy. Hey, let's sterilize our kids and let's abort the babies because it's just a fetus. It's not a real person. I don't know who would ever think that's a real person. You can't tell the difference between a dolphin fetus and a human fetus. Therefore, we should just not even worry about this because you can't tell the difference. That's an actual argument that people actually try to make. Oh, you can't tell the difference between a dolphin fetus and a human fetus. Are you kidding me with that? Like, come on, sit back and think about where your priorities lie, folks. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. But who is going to occupy these houses? And why are we going to build these houses? Do we want just a bunch of unoccupied, abandoned houses? Who's going to fill them homes, huh? Oh, we're going to bring in a bunch of illegals, a bunch of criminal aliens to fix the replacement crisis. Yeah, that's not going to work, folks. That is absolutely not going to work. You cannot replace high-skill labor with low-skill labor. You cannot replace highly educated, skilled workers with no educated, low-skill workers. That's not going to fix our problem, folks. We need to have more babies. That's what we need. More kids, more people having kids. We need to incentivize these things. That's one way to fix this, and that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying to invest into America by pulling some of the government funding away from nonsense. That's something else. Democrats here, oh, well, a bunch of people got fired from the CDC. Therefore, scientists are gone. Research is gone. Well, that's not true, is it? Once again, look into the facts. Oh, come to find out, 80% of the people that got fired from the CDC are administrative staff. Yeah, and redundant positions. Yeah, we don't need 2 assistant managers, for crying out loud, for this certain sector, right? We don't need that. He's getting rid of redundant positions and not filling certain positions. These are good things. He's not funding redundant or ridiculous research that we don't need. He's pulling back because the government can't afford it. Once again, Harry, $1.8 trillion deficit spending. That is annual deficit spending every single year. That is adding to our national debt, and it is drowning us in debt. That is a problem. That, folks, is an emergency. That is why Donald Trump issued an emergency declaration and said we're going to have to implement tariffs to try to subsidize some of this deficit spending. That's why the tariffs are good. Sure, is it going to cost you more? Yeah, but he's also implementing tax cuts as well, which is currently it's not good, to be honest with you. I like having more of my money personally on a personal level. I'm glad about that, right? But if I'm looking to the future, if I'm looking to the health, the fiscal health of this nation, that's not a good thing, folks, having tax cuts. But, you know, he's trying to incentivize growth. What Donald Trump's strategy is here is to incentivize growth to make up for those tax breaks. So, you know, it's a gamble whether it'll work or not. It worked in his first term. Our economy was booming, so he's implementing the same strategy on a much wider scale, right? It's much more robust, if you will. And, hey, I think it might just work. But yeah, I'm pretty much just rambling at this point because there's no more clips, so it is what it is. But, you know, I just love how the solution for everything just seems to be more housing. Well, has that fixed the problem? You know, I've talked about this on a lot of the videos talking about the National Guard, where Democrats are actually coming out in opposition of law enforcement, for crying out loud. Oh, we're not going to law enforcement our way into no crime. Well, that's true, but, I mean, you must have some sort of law enforcement. Right? We can't just allow criminals to get away scot-free with committing crimes. And this soft-on-crime nonsense has clearly not worked. I mean, you guys ran your experiments with defunding the police. That didn't work. Criminals just went crazy. They just went insane. Started mass, like, mob robbing stores and stuff, like up in San Francisco and California and all them places like that where they're soft on crime, where they actually decriminalized theft of less than what, $1,000 or $900 or $999, something like that. I forget what it was, but which spurred on some really, really massive waves of flash mob robberies, which is insane to say, but it's clearly not working. Right? Just having the National Guard patrolling around is going to disincentivize people. It's going to stop crime. It's going to bring crime down. These are good things, right? Putting bad people in jail is a good thing. Look, people make mistakes, right? And you might be thinking, well, what do you know? Well, look, I've spent some time in jail. I straightened myself out, right? I didn't want to go back to jail. Look, that scared me out of committing any more crimes, and I got on the straight and narrow ever since, right? So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that'll teach people not to commit crimes. But we've got to shape our culture around being good, upstanding citizens instead of this nonsense that you can just get out there and go do whatever you want to, right? Like poverty is not necessarily a driver of crime. We correlate these things, but that's not necessarily where it is, because once again, you know, the fact that middle-class kids and rich kids commit crimes kind of destroys that, because they're not in need of anything. Sure, you get a lady going in with a single mother that steals a loaf of bread or whatever. Yeah, you can attribute that to poverty. Sure, fine, whatever. But for the most part, you know, if you say, oh, well, these people just want bread, when they're stealing jewelry, for crying out loud, I'm sorry, they just don't want bread. When you give these people EBT and they try to trade that for other things like drugs. That's fraud, by the way. And there's a lot of fraud committed against the federal government in this country. You know, the estimates are from like $250 billion to $500 billion in fraud against the federal government from all of these entitlement programs. All of them put together. That's a lot of money. That's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That's all of it put together. $500 billion. Minimal $250 billion. That's a lot of money, folks. That's a whole hell of a lot of money in fraud against the government. And I think that stuff needs to come to a stop. Right? We need to stop being greedy people. Look, we're going to have poor people in this country. Everybody can't be middle class. That's just not how the world freaking works. Look, I understand you're jealous of the Elon Musks of the world, right? These people that have absurd amounts of money, right? And you think you deserve some of that money. But you know what? That's not fair to them people. And it's not fair to anybody for you or for the government to come in at the butt of a gun and force them to give up their wealth, for goodness sakes. That is just not fair. That is immoral and wrong. And I don't know how this conversation has gotten way off onto the deep end of that issue, but we don't want socialism or communism in this country. And we need to root out the Marxism, root out all this nonsense, and get ourselves back to just being productive members of society, for crying out loud. That's what I think personally. But, I've been rambling on for a while, so I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. It's fascinating. I know it's kind of a short video or whatever, short with the clips, but, it is what it is. I just found it to be a very interesting little Piers Morgan segment right there. So I threw something together for you guys. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. And hey, share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And if you could, hey, I know times are tough, but if you would be so inclined to click that join button, sign up and become a member. That's the best way to help this channel grow, y'all. So y'all do all that for me. And you guys remember that God is always with us, and he loves each and every one of you out there. So y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.